All right, we're now joined by Dan P. of SKINDRED. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Just in the middle of playing some very loud music.
Are you rehearsing for some live shows?
Yeah, the our record comes out at the end of the week, and we're going to do some shows in the UK and Europe before Christmas. So we're just going to be out for a little while doing that.
Okay, great. Well, we'd love to know a little bit about your background. You know, at what age did you start getting into music and start playing? And, you know, what was kind of the evolution of you, coming up? And who were your musical heroes that inspired you?
Well, originally, I would say the first music that I ever kind of got into was like Hendrix. You know, my neighbor had a lot of classic rock kind of stuff. Like he was into like Neil Young and like Graham Parsons, Tom Petty, all that kind of stuff. But then I heard he just happened to play Hendrix, and that was something so different to me. You know, for me, like, and that I found that really, it was just so kind of like exotic and crazy. You know, like so I kind of got into that. Then I would say probably the Beastie Boys, honestly, because when I heard Ill Communication when I was like 14, that was the first time I heard, like hardcore punk and reggae and hip hop. And I found out, who Lee Perry was, who, Jimmy Smith, all these jazz players, like all that, because of the samples they used or the stuff they talked about. So I think they were like a big influence on me, and also SKINDRED, I would say. Just the idea of like a fusion of music.
Sure. Well, that's exciting to hear. It's we always say there's only two kinds of music that moves you and music that doesn't. And, it takes some of those elements of punk and dance hall and jungle and ska and hip hop and drum and bass and all that.
I mean, growing up in Southampton, I was listening to punk rock and doing all that stuff, and then a lot of my friends were, drum and bass happened, early 90s for me as a kid. So I heard jungle records, and basically the clubs that you could go to were sort of dance clubs, or it was either dance clubs or you go to kind of like indie rock nights and stuff, and you would go to those. But the really fun ones were the like jungle nights, and, and that was how, that was my introduction to like ragga dancehall, really. Outside of that, I'd heard, like I said, Lee Perry and, reggae artists like, Horace Andy, who sang with Massive Attack and things like that. I've been exposed to that. But, that drum and bass, that jungle thing was really big as well. And I think, again, it was another thing. That's a big thing with SKINDRED.
Sure. Well, tell us the evolution of the band, how you came to join, and, what that common spirit and feeling was among the members.
Well, Benji was in a band prior to SKINDRED called Dub War, which was kind of, in some ways, it was the same kind of idea as SKINDRED, but it wasn't as heavy, and it wasn't quite so ragga based. It was more dubby kind of reggae, and they split up in '97, and I'd gone to see Benji's band when I was like 14, 15, and I was 18, and I met Ben. Well, basically, I had the opportunity to jam with him, and I came to Wales just through mutual friends. Like I knew a drummer from Bristol that knew a guitar player from Cardiff that knew Benji, and they said come along for a jam, and I just met him, jammed with him once, and then the next day he called me and was just like, I just want to write songs with you, like let's just work on some music together. So we did that for a while, played with a few different people, and then coming into like Babylon, the first record, two guys from Benji's old band ended up joining us. So we did that, but then our career, we've had so many kind of like ups and downs of record labels and stuff, and now it's just kind of, I feel like we take it in our stride because it's just part of what happens with bands now, unless you're at a certain level, unless you're like U2 or something, the label's not backing. That's at least my experience. Right. So those guys were kind of disheartened, the original guitarist and drummer, and they left. And then really, I mean, this is the way we think about it, is really SKINDRED is Benji, Aria, Mike, and I, and now the other Dan Sturgis, who's he was a live member for a long time, and now he's like kind of an official member of the band as well. But yeah, those guys, when we met those guys, I mean, they're all really young. They were kind of like my age, so we were like 21, 22 kind of thing. And yeah, they sort of came into the fold, and we didn't really have a lot going on at the time. So I mean, it was really kind of for the love at that point. So I think that's one of the reasons why we've kind of stayed together so long, that no one was promised anything, and we just kind of did it because we love the music. And here I am 17 years later.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah. So how would you describe the evolution, besides dealing with the record company politics? How has the music evolved from then to now?
Okay, well, I mean, I think we've always had a thing where we can look at dancehall culture of the time and look at kind of rock music of the time currently, and we can just pick and choose what we like. I mean, we originally, when we started, we were like, okay, we want to play dancehall, but we're playing it with like helmet style guitars. That was how we started. That was the initial kind of thing. And as you get older, you get into different things, and then I mean, over time, because we all like, there's a common thread of bands that we like. Some of the kind of like late 70s kind of the Clash and the Ruts, and the Police and stuff like that. But then we all like Pantera, and we all like Slipknot, and it's kind of like it's a strange thing when we're writing, because we just throw around names and we're like, what if we do something like this, and what if we do something like this, and it's a lot of the time it's more looking for the similarities in music to make it work. So I could listen to like a dub tune, and then I could listen to Black Sabbath, and I can hear the similar, you when you hear the similarities, and then it's easier to like fuse them, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know. I might have gone on a bit. I don't know. Like. Yeah,
no, that's definitely what we're looking for.
Right.
Yeah. Well, now tell us again with the new music. What you're most proud of achieving, creatively with the new album.
Well, I'm really this album. We actually wrote pretty fast. But the idea was to keep it really fresh, because I think on prior releases we kind of, sometimes we gilded the lily a little, we thought about things too much. Whereas this, everything is really fresh. We wrote everything in the room together as a band, whereas on prior records, like I might program a song on my computer and come up with some ideas, and then we don't end up playing those things until we're in the studio, sometimes. But this one, every single song from start to finish, we could play it live. And I think this record is certainly more indicative of what we play in our live set, and it's what people have grown to like about our live set. The kind of the big, bombastic, bouncy kind of tunes. We kind of tried to do that with this record.
Sure. Well, now, as far as touring goes, what countries have you taken this to? Besides Europe, what faraway lands have you traveled to?
Well, over the years, where have you played?
Sure.
Okay, so obviously, like the whole of Europe and Eastern Europe. We played in America. 10 years ago, we were in America a lot, and like North America and Canada. We were there a lot, and I feel like we got to get back there soon. So that's one thing. But yeah, we spent a lot of time in America and Canada. Played in Jamaica. We played Russia, Japan, Australia. Played in South America, Colombia. We've been all over the place. India. We actually filmed from the title track from the last record. We filmed the video in India because we were playing a festival in Pune. And we were in Mumbai for about 5 days prior, and we were like, let's just use the time and do something with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Was that one of the most different places as far as cultures go that was a real eye opener to your what you're used to?
Certainly. I mean, I think in India was quite a different experience, because you can see, especially in Mumbai, and you can see the class system and the way things are, and it's there's some people that are incredibly wealthy, and there's people that are, I mean, they sleep on the, everywhere. When you walk around in Mumbai, like, people are sleeping everywhere.
Wow.
Like, it would be like, I remember coming to the hotel from the airport, and you can't buy rupees outside of the country, their currency.
Uh-huh.
They keep them in the country, and someone said to me, well, I was just like, I just want to get some money in my pocket just in case something happens or something like that. So I was keeping an eye out for an ATM, and as we got to our hotel, I saw an ATM, and the car sort of turned around, and I was going to get out, and I realized there was an entire family, like a mother, a father, like a 12-year-old lad, and two little girls, who one of them must have been 3, and they were just sleeping flat on the ground by the cash point, like, waiting for people to basically beg, and they were there. Well, I mean, things like that, things like just you're walking around and children come up to you begging, and you can't, unfortunately, it's like the money doesn't touch the ground there. You could give money, but you don't know where that money's going to. So, I mean, before we went, we got told to, make sure you got candy in your pocket or some crayons or something like that, and you can give them, and then they actually have something for them, rather than taking money and then they might be giving it to someone, that you don't know. So, yeah, I mean, that was incredible poverty, but then you see, like, this kind of emerging middle class there. It's really, it's a really interesting place. I think there was a lot of amazing things about it, but unfortunately, I feel like for the poorest of the poor, the money, they just never see it,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know you guys have played so many different festivals, from Readings and Leeds and Download and Sonosphere and Hammerfest and Ozfest, and so many great. Are there any highlights? Are there any things that come to mind that were just like surreal moments as far as, really incredible crowds or locations?
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you a load. We played for the first time in Gibraltar, which is a very small country at the bottom of Spain, and it's sort of between Spain and Africa. And on stage you could see we're playing in Gibraltar, and I could see mainland Spain, and I could see Tangiers across. I could see Africa. Like from the stage as we were playing. That's amazing. Sometimes like playing festivals in the mountains, like when you're in Switzerland or we played Polish Woodstock to 500,000 people, and it sounds unbelievable, but it's a real thing that happened. There's a festival in Poland, on the border of Poland and Germany, and it's just a huge, like, it's the world's biggest music festival.
Yes.
Playing that to like 500,000 people, you can't even perceive how many people are in front of you. Like, that was amazing. I think Download 2011, the first time we kind of did this thing. We do this thing at our shows called the Newport Helicopter, where it's become like a thing that we do, and people kind of expect it in our songs, where there's a point in the set where people basically just take off a piece of clothing, a t-shirt or a scarf or whatever they've got, and hold it over their head, and when the song kind of drops, they start swinging it around their head. It's in this particular part of the song, but it's kind of the first time that happened with like a couple of 100,000 people doing it. It was pretty awesome. That was pretty awesome, yeah.
Wow, that's great. Well, now I know that you're going to be out touring to promote the new record, and we look forward to certainly having you back in the States and spreading this out.
Yeah, man.
What all that you've been through, what advice do you give to young creative people today, bands or songwriters or producers, people that want to do, I know the business is constantly changing, but creatively, what do you advise them as far as not only what to maybe avoid, but what to focus on, and, what level of the mindset and perseverance it takes to, be competitive these days?
Right. I think there's a couple of things that I would say. Kind of like what was your statement earlier about there's two types of music?
Yeah, it's music that moves you and music that doesn't. It hits you in the gut.
So you know, that's an old, you know, James Jamerson thing. If you feel it, play it. If you don't feel it, don't play it. Like, I feel, you know, the way the music industry is now, I think it's so in flux all the time because, you know, essentially recorded music has only been around 100 years. You know what I mean? It's been around. It's like a new technology, really, and people don't know how to sell music. They're selling art in a way that wasn't done before, and it's still not right. It's still no one's figured out the right way to do it. So I would say, if you're going to make music, you have to make music that you love. You have to. Because ultimately, you don't know what you're going to get from it, and you might not make any money. And imagine if you made no money and you were playing music that you didn't love. You know, at the end of the day, it's just ridiculous, you know. So you have to do things that you love. You have to, because otherwise, you know, that should be your motivation. Playing music that you love and that you want people to hear. And yeah, I think that's. Do you know what? That's probably the biggest one that I would say. Like, let the music be your motivation, your love for it, rather than expecting to, you know, because something from it. Because I mean, no one is owed anything from music, unfortunately, you know, and to be able to like make it and, you know, and make a living from it is a real privilege. So I think getting there the right way. So you can look yourself in the mirror as well. You know, do stuff that you want to hear. Do stuff that you love.
Yeah, and I know you had the opportunity to guest on the later with Jules Holland show. Go Bordello. Talk about how that came about.
Yeah. We sort of we did Warped Tour in 2005, and we met Gogo Bordello then. And the first time I don't know if you know anything about the bands, but the first time I saw them, I was just like, I just couldn't get my head around about what was happening, because they had this, like, it was like this Balkan influence and kind of like punk, but like dubby, and like there was reggaeton and like all these things like all kind of happening at once. And I was just like, in a way, they're kind of like us, you know, where they kind of pick and choose like elements of music and stuff. And we became like quite tight with them, and we played it when they came to the UK. We actually supported them. You know, they asked specifically for us to play with them, so we met them again, and like I know that Eugene was into the band, you know, and then a little while later we did. I can't remember. I think it was 2005. 2005. We did Download, and I got a call a couple of days before, and basically the bass player at the time, he had an issue with his passport and he couldn't come over, and they were like, basically, can you play some stuff for us? And they didn't even say Jules Holland. And Jules Holland in the UK that's a really big show. Yeah. You know, that's like you kind of aspire to be on that show. Yeah. And they were like, can you do it? And I was like, absolutely. You know, so that was really great, because I mean we've toured with those guys a lot since. We toured America, we toured over Europe with them. They're just like friends of ours, kind of thing. But yeah, that was a really great experience. You know, there's something I feel like maybe I know, despite the fact that Metallica played Jules Holland, that's like the heaviest thing that they've had on there. I mean, and I think we SKINDRED maybe we're a little bit too savage for Jules Holland. I don't know. Maybe one day, but I think, you know, obviously Metallica are Metallica, and they get to do whatever they want, really, you know. But I don't know whether if SKINDRED is gonna, you know, be on there anytime soon. But I'd love to, you know.
Yeah, and I know at one point during the Download Festival in 2006, Benji helped out Korn when Jonathan Davis was rushed to the hospital. What happened there?
Yeah, I don't totally know the ins and outs of what actually happened to him, but I think that Robert Trujillo from Metallica, Benji was in a project years ago with Robert before he joined Metallica. Yes. And it was a project called Mass Mental, which he's still kind of like he's brought around again recently, because he's been doing this Jaco Pastorius movie, and it's kind of like, but it's very bass orientated music. Right. He said to the Korn guys, because we toured with them in 2004 in America. You know, we did like an arena tour, and basically, I think Trujillo said to maybe Fieldy or one of them, is like, Benji is the guy. Benji is the guy you need. So they had like different people like guest on different songs. And Benj did, they just approached him, and then he went backstage and they kind of ran through it, just talking about it, just made sure he knew it. And then, yeah, it was great. It was really great. Like, because we were just like hanging out at that point. You know, we'd played, and you know, we were just hanging at the festival, and then it was like, oh, we'll just go watch Benji play with Korn. Like, it was crazy.
Wow, very spontaneous.
Yeah.
Well, we're so excited about the new album. We're gonna spread the word and look forward to seeing you back stateside whenever you get here, and we'll spread the news on where everybody can find you online. You know, really appreciate your time, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, man. Great questions. I really, really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Appreciate it.